Cam Stewart, there he is, baby. Cam, this is a big day for you.
Yes, it is. I woke up feeling the cheesiest, Coach.
What is the number one thing that you're excited for tonight?
Oh, tonight. There's so many things, Pete. There's so many things to be excited about. Isn't this must-be TV tonight, NBC, Thursday night? What do we got, ER at 9? Friends in Seinfeld leading up to it? I don't think you're going to see 3 fights in 9 seconds. How about that? I don't think you're going to see three. No, I don't think you're going to see 3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
So for people who don't know, Cam, bring us up to speed on that, because honestly, I really don't know why that happened. I know Zach does. He's in here, but tell the fans at home, Cam Stewart fans, who don't quite understand the four nations and why U.S. and Canada fought 3 times in the first 9 minutes of Saturday night's game.
First 9 seconds, Pete. First 9 seconds. Honestly, I don't know if there's any one reason why they did it. I think this was just, this is the first time that we've had best on best international hockey in 9 years. And so this has been building. This is obviously a totally new generation for the most part for both these teams. And the U.S. has really started building momentum the last couple of years. World Junior Championships, they've won the last 2. And they've got more talent than they've ever had. So the U.S. more than anyone has been hungry for this kind of tournament to be out there. And, it's a game, it's in Montreal. So it's a huge, obviously Canadian crowd. The Canadian fans, even before this tournament, like at NHL games, have been booing the U.S. national anthem because of the tariffs and all that. So there's kind of a bubbling there. And hockey, unlike pretty much any other major sport, other than soccer, you really, really get national pride. You actually get intensity when it comes to these games and putting on that uniform. And so I think this was on Saturday, it was the U.S. saying, you know what? We're not getting pushed around anymore. We had some good teams 10, 12 years ago that couldn't beat Canada. But we think we're the best team at this tournament, and we are going to kind of send a message to them. That's what it was. Just a long way of saying it, sending a message of, hey, we're kind of the big guys on the block now. And now they got to back it up. They got to beat them again. Winning that one in Canada was great. It was an awesome event, but it doesn't mean a damn thing if you don't win tonight.
Why should Americans be invested in this? Should we go into this game bloodthirsty for a victory over Canada?
Yes, you should. I think Americans should be invested in this because hockey is such a great sport. It could be the greatest sport in the world. It's so awesome. And it's so great on this national stage, which some other sports just can't replicate. Basketball, we love it as Americans because the Americans win all the time. Baseball is still trying to find something with some international intrigue. And hockey has it. Hockey already has. Football can't have it. Hockey already has it. And it's something that we are not the best at, but we're pretty damn close right now. This is as close as the U.S. has ever been to being the best hockey nation in the world. And if they win tonight, they would have the claim as being the best national hockey team on the planet. Really, there's all this kind of, talk of the Russians aren't in this tournament, the Czechs aren't in this tournament, and those teams are really are good, but they're not the U.S. and Canada. The biggest reason why, Pete, is because you're going to see a lot of U.S. versus Canada the next decade. This is the beginning of it. Forever, it was Canada and the Soviets, Russia, being the best 2 international teams in the world. It was the clash of styles. It was, of course, very politically charged and all that. And the U.S. obviously has their moments. They win gold in 1960 and 80. They win the World Cup in 96. But it was always Canada and Russia, and then Canada, U.S. on a different plane. These are the 2 best teams in the world. They don't like each other. They're going to play each other very often. This is the tip of the iceberg tonight. And like I said earlier, the U.S. has had their shot to beat Canada at this level in my lifetime. 2010, they go to the gold medal game and they lose in overtime after tying it late in regulation. 2014, I think they had a better team than Canada. Canada was kind of limping to the finish. You remember the U.S. beat Russia in that shootout with TJ Oshie. and Canada beats them 1-0. So Canada always finds a way to win these kinds of games. But the U.S., this is the best team they've ever put out there. They've already showed they're not going to be pushed around. It is going to be theater.
So you talk about theater. You mentioned politics. How politically charged will this event be tonight?
Certainly it will be, and specifically from the Canadian side. Like, I love hockey. I love hockey players. I don't think they're thinking too politically when it comes to these games. I think it's just U.S., Canada, share a border. They think they're so much better than us, that kind of thing. But certainly for the fans, and definitely in Canada, it was that way. You know, booing the national anthem. They're freaking losing their mind, absolutely losing their minds up there, because Bill Guerin, the GM of Team USA, was like, "Yeah, wouldn't mind having President Trump at our game." And like they're absolutely losing it north of the border. I mean, they can't stand this. They think this is like going to be a win against fascism if they can win it today. So I think the Canadians see it a lot more politically than the Americans do. But I mean, elephant in the room when it comes down to it. Like, I don't think these players are too politically charged, but like from the U.S. and the Canadian side, it's a conservative crowd, man. It's not cheap playing hockey, man. It is a conservative crowd when it comes to this sport. But yeah, I think the Canadian public is the one taking that the most seriously. I don't know if we'll see a booed Canadian national anthem in Boston tonight. But it will certainly have some undertones to it.
Your thoughts on Sean McDonough coming out, who will be the commentator for tonight's match, saying he does not want folks to boo. Folks in Boston, his people, boo the Canadian national anthem.
Our people, yeah. I don't want them to either. I suggested, and we talked about this on my show a couple days ago. Zach pulled up the clip for me. In 2004, the Bruins were playing the Canadiens in the first round of the playoffs, and in Montreal, they booed the American national anthem. I don't know what the reason was, but Don Cherry of Hockey Night in Canada, former Bruins coach, was like, "I'll tell you, they got the greatest fans in the world in Boston. Too much class. They won't boo our anthem. I guarantee it." And they went back to Boston, and when they played O Canada, the fans just cheered through the whole thing, like screaming, clapping, cheering through the whole thing. Too much class in Boston. So I think it's funnier to do that. I think it's a better shot at them to do that. But, I mean, it's an 8 p.m. puck drop, 8:20 puck drop Eastern time. They'll have ample time to get liquored up. I imagine there'll probably be more boos than cheers. But I agree with Sean McDonough, who I'm very happy is doing this game, man. I mean, this beckons for Sean McDonough.
I think they booed in 2004 because realistic people were still actually searching for weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, baby.
I think that might have been the issue.
Nope, we found them.
So if you have an opportunity to talk to people, because I did a rap on this show yesterday about this, how I feel, by the way, it was such a convincing rap that it got like 300 views on my on the story. So clearly,
man.
I guess it's not quite the lightning rod I thought it was
like my whole week combined. Yeah.
But no, I was interested about hockey having an opportunity to throw a dent in the popularity of the NBA right now. The NBA is vulnerable, man. I'm sorry. I'm on a text chain with a bunch of friends who cannot stand it. Guys who used to love the NBA. Now that's partially their problem in some respects. But
yeah, and I'm sure you've got some Sixers fans for sure.
Oh.
But I'll offer a perspective. I don't watch a ton. And I'm watching less Celtics games than I was even earlier in the season. And that's part of that's been scheduling. But like I don't miss it as much. In the playoffs, I like to watch it, and I'll watch every Celtics game. But yes, just to kind of put into, it's not just the Sixers fans when they suck that are like, hey, the NBA is down. I agree. The NBA is down. Yeah.
So how realistic is it that hockey can sort of make some serious progress? I mean, I'm not going to say, they're going to dethrone basketball as far as the competition between the two sports and the popularity. However, all anybody's been talking about is how awesome this Four Nations Cup is and how bad the All-Star game sucked.
Yeah.
And that All-Star game, people complaining about the All-Star game, I think is frustration just bubbling up. Again, I talked about this here yesterday. The NBA, it was the perfect trade between Luka and Anthony Davis for two guys who were injured, right? Who weren't gonna
play.
Yeah. NBA, you know?
Yeah. I think this is a great opportunity. And this comes around maybe once in a generation is a bit of a stretch, but probably about once in a generation in terms of American hockey having the opportunity to really take a step forward. There's that famous SI cover in '94 of why the NHL's hot and the NBA's not. You know, the Rangers had won the cup. Yeah. Michael Jordan's out of the NBA, and it kind of gives a lift. I mean, the NHL gets some big time TV deals through the mid '90s. I talked about this the other day in 2010 when the U.S. made the gold medal game. They lost to Canada, but it was a great game. It was a huge TV event. Millions were watching in the U.S. And you were kind of transitional in the NBA. Like LeBron's going to Miami. There's all these super teams, and I think there's a period where people are like, I don't want to do this. And the NHL gains a ton of popularity. Now, this is absolutely an opportunity. This right here, right now, with this Four Nations tournament, because the NHL is as skilled as it's ever been. You know, we had a great 7-game Stanley Cup final last year. We've got more best on best coming up. And so it is a big opportunity. The NBA is, I mean, ratings are down, and there's just more of a discourse of people talking about, like, what is this sport? Like, what does this sport become? What is this game? But I will say that the thing that is at a disadvantage here for hockey this year, as opposed to those last 2 times that I mentioned. In '94, the Rangers won the cup. In 2010 through 2015, when it had this other renaissance following the gold medal game, the best teams in the league were the Chicago Blackhawks, the Boston Bruins, the LA Kings, and the Rangers had some good teams in there. Major American markets were involved. This year, the Blackhawks are the worst team in the league. The Bruins are not going to make the playoffs. The Rangers are not going to make the playoffs. The Capitals, not much. The Penguins are not going to make the playoffs. They stink. So there's a lot of American NHL teams in the tank right now. You know, your best teams are in Florida and, you know, north of the border in Edmonton. You know, there's Minnesota, which is obviously a great hockey town, but not a huge market, right? So there's that thing that the NHL is specifically missing out on right now. But yeah, this happens about once a generation, whether the Americans take the chance or not. And typically the NBA, because they are a better marketed league and more savvy when it comes to running their league, as more than the NHL is, usually overtakes them a couple years later again. But absolutely, man, this is a time where the NBA is very vulnerable, and hockey has a chance here. And if they get some of those big American markets back in the mix in the next couple of years, while we have the World Cup of Hockey and the Olympics, it will certainly help. But now you've got hockey on 2 major networks as well, TNT, ESPN. I don't like the way that ESPN covers it very much. You know, I'm not telling you to put in some words to your bosses or anything, but this is absolutely an opportunity for that next generation of American hockey to really take off and be the best team in the world. America wants to be the best at everything. And Canada, more than anybody, like, they take this shit real serious. Because, I mean, let's be honest, dude. I love Canada as a country, but hockey is their greatest export to culture and to the world, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
There's not even a close second. There's no one other thing that you see and say, oh, Canada, synonymous Canada. Hockey is the thing.
Yes.
And the fact that the U.S. could be better than them with a star player who plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs and is from Scottsdale, Arizona, like, that would just that's a 10-inch knife just carving through their intestines.
That's scary, and that gets my attention. All right, last one for you.
Yeah.
And no Darby Browns here. Who's going to win tonight? By the way, I got to tee up that clip, whether it's for Locked On Baylor, whenever we do scores, when
you
David
always say that, yeah.
When David Smoke asks Darby Brown on live TV to pick a score, and Darby shuts him down. It was a great sequence and exchange.
I told my prospective father-in-law to go with U.S. money line and the under, which is 5. I have the U.S. winning this one 2-1.
Oh,
it's going to be tight, like the last game. I think even though Charlie McAvoy was great in that game on Saturday, and he's not playing tonight. They're going to be tight defensively. They played a perfect defensive game on Saturday. I think they get it done on home ice.
When's it gonna end? How late will it go?
I mean, it's 8:30 game, so
8:30?
7:30
8:30
Central Time. 7:30 Central Time, as I just said. So
all right,
10. It'll end at 10.
Just being honest, I can do that. All right, the Cam Show's coming up next on the Rogue Media Network. Cam, I should talk about hockey with you once a week. You really came out Pistons pumping. I appreciate it.
I'm in. I'm so in, man. I'm so into this. My life's going to change tonight.
All right, head over to the Cam Show. His life's going to change, so get him while he's hot in his current version. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take it easy, Cam. Take it easy. Pete Souza Show people. We're presented by Slovakics. Go out to West and check out my man, Ray. Trust me, it'll be worth your while.